Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn Live. It's been a few weeks since we've done one of these. To be honest, we sort of took the month of April off to get used to the sort of new surroundings and setting up the studio at home. I'm so used to doing these in downtown Chicago that we did get a studio set up at home. And so I'm excited about doing some more Lunch and Learn Live. So let's do it today. I am very excited to bring on former tight end for the Bears, author and motivational speaker, Desmond Clark.
Appreciate it. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
How's quarantining going for you guys?
Yeah, it's different, just like it is for everybody else. But you know, it's one of those things that we just have to embrace right now because that's what we're in. So I'm embracing it and just trying to make the most of it, trying to see how productive I can be while being inside, and so that's my mindset.
Yeah, I think you did a recent, I think you called it a 30 for 30, where you were doing like 30 motivational videos in 30 days, correct?
Yeah, so when you took the month of April off to get yourself set up, I dove in the month of April, and I did the 30 for 30, and primarily I did it for two reasons. One, obviously to promote my book, and then second, I wanted to give thoughts out of my book and different thoughts that I have to people to some type of way, hopefully help them get through this time that we're going through right now. But beyond that, also share some of the book and some of the things that I believe are principles of winning to help them get to the next step of their success in their life. So that's what the 30 for 30 was about. I think it was successful. Had a lot of people looking for it every day. So I'm looking forward to my next one, but it won't be for a little while.
Yeah, that takes a lot of effort. As a video producer myself, I know it's tough to completely come up with content all the time. So I completely understand. Well, I definitely want to get to the book and some of the other things that you're talking about here. But, you know, I know that you and I talked a little bit about sort of what's the show about. And I want to go back quite a ways, you know, to your Florida days. Were you born and raised there in Bartow?
No, so I was born in Bartow, but I was raised in Lakeland. So back in the 70s, if you were poor, you went over to Bartow General to be delivered. So I always lived in Lakeland, stayed in Lakeland, grew up in Lakeland, but we had to go to Bartow, Florida, to Bartow General if you know, if you was gonna be delivering a baby around in those times.
Got it. I got it. Okay. And I know that when you were in high school there, you played several different sports. So were you an athlete growing up, even as a kid, playing little league, baseball, those types of things, and football at a young age?
Absolutely. I started playing football when I was 6 years old, and I played every single year until the age of 34. And we're talking tackle football. Even at that young age, I picked up basketball in middle school. Although I always played basketball, you know, in the playgrounds and stuff like that. I didn't start playing organized basketball until I got into middle school. But yeah, I've always been athletically inclined. Always out in the park playing basketball, baseball, football, or something. You know, growing up in Florida, we could play sports year round because we got the weather.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that question later about why you're still in Chicago, but we'll cover that later. But was there a time period sort of, you know, between the ages of, you know, let's say 10 and 16 where you're like, hey, I'm really good at this. Like, this is something that I could do. Did you have professional aspirations at that point?
I never really had professional aspirations until after my junior year of college. And I actually talk about this in the book also, and I know we're going to get to that. But from the age when I got to high school, for me, high school and sports was a way that I can get to college.
Yep.
By getting a scholarship for playing sports. So for me, it was about being the best that I could be every single year and being one of the best, if not the best on the team, and then looking in the area and the people who I was competing against in my area and saying, hey, how am I stacking up against them? And that was my mindset when I was young in high school. It's just, hey, am I good enough? Can I compare to these other people that I'm playing against? Because these are also the other people that college scouts are going to be looking for to give those scholarships away.
Absolutely. So for you, it was really a means to an end for an education, not necessarily something that you're going to do professionally. And I need to get a scholarship to a university where I can get a good education.
Yeah, because I had promised my mom when I was like 14 years old that I was going to be successful. Didn't know what that meant at the time. Really didn't have any success role models to look up to. But once I learned that, hey, I can go to school on scholarship, for free, that became kind of my mindset. And I seen that as a way of moving down that road of being successful, because, growing up as a kid, everybody tells you, hey, you go to high school, you go to college, you get a good job, but you got to go to college to get a good job. And as we know today, that's not the linear way that you can go. There's many different ways you can go. But that was my mindset at the time. Get to college and just be successful, because I had promised my mom.
Yeah, you and I are about the same age. I think we've got a year apart, but that was...
You're older. You're older.
I am older, yes, by like a year. So, but our generation, Generation X, that's how we were raised. It was, you go to high school, you go to college, you get a job, and that was sort of the path that everybody took. And you're right, it's not necessarily that way anymore. As you were working through your high school education, but also playing sports, did you start leaning more heavily towards football during those high school years?
I didn't really declare until after my senior year, really. Well, okay. I think it was during my senior year of playing football when I said, you know what, I'm gonna go and play football in college. I had basketball scholarship opportunities, but there were more lower Division I than it was with football. It was all like major. I had some small schools, but then I had the major colleges. Also, your Georgia Techs, your Wake Forest, your Virginia Techs. I actually got a letter from Nebraska back in those times in the 90s. From Nebraska, it was like one of the teams.
Tom Osborne.
Yeah, North Carolina State. Man, so I just had football scholarships at a higher tier for college sports than I had for basketball, and that's what really made me say, okay, I want to go where the big boys are playing at.
Yep, absolutely. Now, when you were playing football in high school, I saw that you were wide receiver. I think you played some quarterback, you played safety. Were you looking at colleges strictly for wide receiver roles? What was your plan at that point?
I didn't have a plan.
You know how many times I've heard that on this show? Because you just expect people to have these plans, and not everybody does.
You know what? I would be lying to you if I kind of sat and thought about it and knew what I wanted to do, and knew how it was going to go. But here's how it kind of shaped out. Once I started getting recruited for college football, either the teams wanted me to come in as a quarterback, because I was an option quarterback in high school. Yep. I did play some receiver also. Early. This is like early on, and when I was moved up to the varsity, I was playing receiver after I came up from the JV. But it was either as an athlete or as a quarterback, and then I had a couple schools that wanted me to play receiver. So when I looked at it, I said, okay, they're going to recruit me as an athlete. That means that they can put me wherever they want to put me.
Yep.
Definitely didn't want to do that. And
okay.
I didn't want to play on defense. And then I came to the conclusion that I didn't want to play quarterback either, because option quarterback in college, it just didn't seem as fun to me.
Yep.
And I actually went into high school thinking that I would play receiver. And then my oldest brother played receiver in high school. I had a cousin that played receiver in high school. So I think I was influenced by that. I wore their same numbers at the same high school, and I was influenced more by that. And I just thought that I could be better as a receiver, even though I played quarterback in high school.
Very cool. That's awesome. I've always, as a follower of college recruiting, I went to Purdue, so I follow a lot of recruiting in general, and see that where somebody just says, I'm an athlete. And I think that does mean, like, we're going to put you somewhere where you can use your, athletic ability to help our team.
Right.
So,
Hey, let's just get here and then we'll see. No,
we'll figure it out.
now that part I did want to have planned out.
Yes, yeah, you did not want to be playing defense, it sounds like. Very cool. So you decided to go to Wake Forest, and you listed many other schools that were recruiting you. Why Wake Forest at the time?
Yeah, so the 5 schools I took my visits on was University of Central Florida, who wanted me to play receiver. They were also had signed Dante Culpepper.
Okay.
So, had North Carolina State. I went to Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, and Georgia Tech. Quite frankly, I didn't like the people at Georgia Tech when I went there. I was kind of a straight-laced kind of a kid, and because of my dad and his situation, I kind of stayed away from all of the BS because I didn't want to go down the road that he went down.
Yep.
At Georgia Tech, there's a lot of illegal activity going on.
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that. With the players and North Carolina State, I kind of got lost at North Carolina State. Big campus, and I just didn't have that. I don't know. It just didn't hit me. I went to Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech was really good. And then my brother's best friend, who grew up right down the street from me, he was at Virginia Tech. All-American Torian Gray, got drafted in the 2nd round. But Virginia Tech wanted me as the athlete, and I figured that they were going to put me in as the option quarterback. And then it was Wake Forest who said, we're recruiting you as a receiver. We want you to play receiver. And when it came down to it, I just thought I would do better at Wake Forest playing receiver.
Well, and had you gone to Tech, the option quarterback you probably would have competed against was Michael Vick.
No, I was way before Michael Vick.
Really? I guess, yeah, you're right. He would have been, 97 through 2000, somewhere in there.
I think he was drafted in 2001.
Okay.
This was a time of Adrian DeShazer. No, not Adrian. That's a guy from my hometown. But it was another DeShazer that was at Virginia Tech that was option at the time. And I figured, okay, I'm gonna either be playing an option and they're gonna put me back at safety somewhere.
Now, when you were at Wake Forest, you stayed there all 4 years, correct?
Yes.
Did you have the same coaching staff the entire time you were there?
The entire time.
That's awesome.
I had a coach that was there the entire time, and I had my head coach that was there the entire time. The 2 most important coaches for me.
Yeah, that's really rare these days. So it's I was trying to do research to see if I could find that and knew how to get it, but I didn't have time. So I wanted to ask you that. That had to have been huge for you coming into a situation where, you're learning, getting better, to have the same coaching staff.
Right. The only thing that happened is when I was being recruited, a coach from my hometown recruited me.
Oh.
Yeah. And then after signing day, he left and went to Georgia Tech.
Jeez.
So that part happened early, but once I got there, I had the same staff. And that's huge, man, to have that continuity and then have people that's there and they're developing you the whole time. And so it's not, hey, after your sophomore year, you bring in another coach, and now that coach has to understand your pros and cons to your game and where you need to be helped out and where you can excel, your personality and all of this other stuff, man. Especially being 19, 20 years old, that's tough.
Yep.
And in college, you got typically what I hear, I'm just going to say it like that, these coaches that like to come in and be hard asses and, they got to set their tempo. At Wake Forest, that was not the culture.
Yeah.
Coach Caldwell didn't run that type of program, and his coaches didn't coach that way. They really care for people as individuals, which you don't always hear that with other coaching staffs, especially in college. They care about the individual. They just that may not be the first thing that they show.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going from high school to college and, being on a football team, scholarship athlete on a football team, what was the biggest thing that you had to learn from that transition your freshman year?
First of all, I had to learn how to study.
Yeah, that's a big one.
But I didn't learn that until after my freshman football season. We could talk about that story. But for me, it was the work ethic, man. Just learning that now you're in college, everybody is, just as good as you, or more people are just as good as you. So now you gotta work. I mean, those winter workouts, you have to get up at 5:30 in the morning. Oh
Yep.
my God, that's the killer. But I'm glad that I went through those times and learned that work ethic and learned that discipline, because I still use that stuff now today. I haven't set an alarm clock since college.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, if I know I got to get up at 5:30, I'm up at 5:15, and I'm just up. So it's a lot of things, and that's probably the most important thing that I learned in college was just that disciplined work ethic. Because if you didn't work, they were just like the pros. They were bringing somebody else in the next year.
Yep. Yeah. It's not Park League where everybody gets to play at that point.
Yeah, no ribbons for participation.
Yep. Did you have senior classmen or upperclassmen wide receivers that sort of took you under their wing and wanted you to show you the ropes?
Yeah, when I first got there, Marlon Estes, he was a senior, and he had a really good senior season. I think he played 1 or 2 years. Got some tryouts in the NFL. He was big for me. And then I was a freshman. There was this sophomore receiver by the name of Tabidi Davis. And as our careers progressed, we were the 2 top receivers on Wake Forest. He was 220 pounds by the time at his senior year, and I was 240 pounds when I was a junior. We had the 2 biggest wideout tandem in America.
Yeah.
He was the guy that really showed me, hey, don't worry about anything else that's going on. You do the work that you're supposed to do. You focus on you. And it's not that he told me that, is that I watched him and
Yep.
I seen his work ethic, and I say, okay, that's the guy who I want to, mimic what he's doing. And he was like one of the hardest workers on the team. You'll see him out working when nobody else was working. And he was dedicated to his craft. And that's who I really learned from, and really got up under his wing until I established that for myself early on in college. And he actually played 4 or 5, maybe 6 years in the NFL also.
That's amazing. I know a lot of times on teams like that, you've got your position coach, you've got your head coach, but do you feel like in situations like that, you're going to learn a lot more from the guys around you that are going to take you under their wing than you would from a position coach? Like, how does that work on a team like that?
No, because all of those guys don't know how to coach.
Okay. That's a good point. That's a really good point.
They may be good athletes, but they're getting coached also.
Yep.
You can take bits and parts from other people, but having a good coach is paramount to success.
Yep.
The coach is going to see where you're deficient and help you develop those skills. The players, they'll help you work and do all of that stuff. But as far as development, you need a great coach to help you develop the skills that you lack. So I would say having a good coach is one. Having other players that you can lean on, that's going to be 1A, because they're important too. I always say when I got into the NFL, the 3 tight ends that I played with in the NFL, they set the tempo for my whole NFL career. If I would have got into a bad group of tight ends my first year in the NFL, and that would have been my introduction to it, or even at Wake Forest, if I didn't have Marlon Estes there and I didn't have Tabidi Davis there, we had some other guys there that if they were the guys who I had to lean on to see what the example was supposed to be, I would have never got off the ground.
Yeah, would not have gone as well. You mentioned in your junior year, sort of the light bulb came on that, hey, I might be able to do this as a career. What happened your junior year that sort of made that light come on?
So I was all ACC my junior year, and after the year, I'm looking at everybody else who was getting drafted, who was supposed to get drafted, and I'm like, I got numbers close to that, And I heard about how you could petition the NFL just to see what your draft status would be if you were to leave early.
Okay.
So I went to my coaches and I was like, well, how did you do that? And so we got all of that done. And it came back that if I was to leave that year, I would be drafted no higher than the 5th round. And at the very least, I would be a free agent, a rookie free agent. Okay, that's positive. At least I know that there's a possibility. And then that's when my mind frame shifted to I have a chance to go to the NFL. If I have a really good senior season and continue on the path that I was on, now I could be in the NFL. So that's when all of that started.
Very cool. So then senior season goes pretty well, I would assume.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I got hurt. I got hurt towards the back end of the season. It was beyond the midway point.
Okay.
I've never been hurt. And of course, it's like, yeah, I would get hurt the year that I need to replace, but it wasn't a serious injury. I think I missed a game and a half. I probably will tell you, some people probably would have missed more because I had a sprained MCL playing receiver. That's tough. Yeah, but I had a lot riding on it, so I rehabbed my ass off and got back out there just so I could play in the final few games, just so I could help the team and get my personal stats up because, I know the NFL scouts will be looking at that.
Yep. I know there's only a certain number of invites. Did you get invited to the combine or no?
Did.
You did? Okay.
Yeah. Strange thing, and I don't know how this played out. I guess the NFL scouts have a lot to do with it. I knew if I went to the NFL, I was going to be a tight end. Like I was 250 pounds my senior year playing receiver. Okay.
Yeah, that narrows it down in the NFL.
Yeah, and I wasn't fast, so I got invited to the combine as a tight end.
That's interesting. Wow, and you hadn't played it at all in college?
No, I lined up there a few times throughout my senior year just because my coaches were kind of, looking out for the person.
Yep.
Saying, okay, we'll line you up at tight end a few times because that's going to be your future. And then it also helped the team.
Yep. Which most people that have a rudimentary understanding of football would say, okay, you're still catching passes, but as a tight end, now you have to block.
It's a totally different animal.
Yeah.
Tight end. Yeah. So first of all, when you're playing receiver, it's just you and the cornerback, and you may have somebody else maybe within 15 yards. When you're playing tight end, you have the defensive end, the defensive tackle, the linebacker, and maybe a safety.
Yeah.
In a confined space. And then there's a different type of blocking scheme there also, which in college, I didn't have to block because people knew if I was at tight end, it was a pass.
Yeah.
But it's like trying to learn Spanish. Once you learn Spanish, now go over here and learn French. It's totally different games.
Yeah. I know a lot of people from the time their senior season is over, they go to, California or Phoenix or wherever and go to like a camp to get ready for the combine. Was part of that for you learning the tight end position?
So we got to put this in perspective.
All right.
I got drafted in 1999. All of that stuff wasn't prevalent.
Yeah, that really wasn't around then.
Yeah. I mean, it was around a little bit, but more people were just going to train for the combine.
Yep.
And it wasn't even a whole lot of that going on where it was specialized, all of these specialized places that you go to. Like right now, I mean, you can go to 1,000 different places that's going to train you from your college days until you get drafted. I mean, I have some former teammates that's actually doing some of those camps, but it wasn't that prevalent back then. So no, I had my agent, he set up something for me to come up to New York for a couple of days just to really talk me through what the combine was going to be like. We did some workouts, but it wasn't training. I was there for 48 hours.
Wow. That's crazy. You hear about all these factories now where people go and it's just, improving your 40 time and all that stuff. And, to know they didn't have stuff like that back then.
Right. And they probably had some, but it just wasn't as much as it is now.
Sure.
And it just wasn't. Back in our day, youngsters, we did it on raw skill.
That's right. We just went out there and did it.
Yeah.
You did. I didn't. I was playing on computers at that point.
He said, "Well, you did it, just not in the sports way."
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I was making videos and stuff back then. So as you start to get towards the draft, what are teams saying to you, and is Denver saying to you, hey, we're really interested in you? What's happening during this time period?
So another thing that happened, you have your pro day, and that's when the scouts really get a chance to interact with you, like more than just the 10-minute interviews that you get at the combine. So my pro day, it's only a couple of us played at Wake Forest, not a football factory. I freaking sprained my ankle.
Oh my God! At the combine?
No, at my pro
at your pro day. Oh my gosh!
So I didn't get the full workout in. But there wasn't a whole lot of conversation when you're supposed to get drafted. So my agent told me this. He's like, right before the draft, he's like, if it's a good draft for tight ends, you would probably get drafted as high as the 4th round. If it's a bad draft for the tight ends that's in here, I expect you to go in the 6th round. The 2 top draft choices projected was Rufus French out of Mississippi, and it was another guy, and I can't think of his name. Neither one of those guys got drafted.
Wow.
So it was a bad draft for tight ends. And I got drafted in the 6th round. So, and I say all that to say I wasn't one of those top draft picks or expected to be. So there wasn't a whole lot of conversation.
Got it. Okay.
Conversation around when you're not, in the first 2 rounds,
Right.
People are not calling you. They just got you on the draft board. Oh, if he's there in the 6th round, we'll take him. There's no too much strategizing around the 6th round draft picks.
Got it. So you didn't have an idea of certain teams you had to have known what teams perhaps had, tight end, like nothing like that.
No.
Wow.
I had never talked to the Denver Broncos before I got that phone call on draft day, and Mike Shanahan asked me if I wanted to be a Denver Bronco. First time I ever talked to the Denver Broncos.
Wow, that's crazy. And you're just sitting at home watching 5th, 6th round with your phone sitting there or your phone on the wall, who knows?
Yep.
And just waiting for that phone call. Like that's
right. It was so much different 21 years.
Right.
Maybe 6th round draft picks, they're having a whole lot of conversation with different teams. But back then, no. And tell you the truth, I can't even remember. I think I might have had 3 different scouts at my pro day. So I didn't have a whole lot of people coming out to watch.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you knew even from an undrafted free agent perspective, like you could get on a team. Like you felt good about that.
I felt good that I was going to have an opportunity to be on a roster, at least for camp for the NFL.
All right.
Making the team, I had no clue because again, I'm going from receiver to tight end. I never played a position before. I don't have a clue of what that's going to be like once I get to the NFL. So
you get drafted by the Denver Broncos. How quickly do you realize that you're going to be playing with Shannon Sharpe?
How quickly did I realize that?
Yeah.
First day of training camp, I didn't realize I was going to be playing with Shannon Sharpe. After the first week or so, I figured I would never play with Shannon Sharpe. I didn't think I was going to make the team.
Yeah.
So it was not like I was making plans like, yeah, I'm going to be playing with Shannon Sharpe. No, it was like, man, like these dudes are good. Shannon Sharpe, Dwayne Carswell, also Byron Chamberlain. These guys are good, man. When Shannon Sharpe went down in the 2nd Super Bowl, it was Dwayne Carswell and Byron Chamberlain that stepped up to help, to make that tight end position still effective position in the Super Bowl. Listen, most teams only keep 3 tight ends. Well, back then, most teams only kept 3 tight ends. Where do I fit in on the 2 Super Bowl champion, and I'm playing also with a Hall of Famer.
Wow, that's crazy. Just to walk into that situation, you've got to have an immense amount of belief in yourself to be able to say, hey, I'm going to learn and I want to make this team. What was that transition like from college to the pros, those first couple of weeks of training camp and learning a new position? I mean, you're just drinking from a fire hose at that point.
Oh, yeah. And let me say this about the other two tight ends that were on the Denver Broncos. Dwayne Carswell, he actually went once Shannon Sharp left, he made it to a Pro Bowl. Brian Chamberlain, my second year, we were still there together. He actually went to Minnesota, and he was a Pro Bowl tight end.
Wow.
So when I got there, that's the caliber of people that I'm playing with. But, yeah, making that transition was tough. And I'll never forget, and this is one of my principles that I live by, one of the principles of winning. My scout, it was a scout that came up to me. And now I say my scout, I can't even remember his name, but he had to have some vested interest in me. And all these scouts, they're the one who's saying, this guy's good, this guy can make it. So I'm just assuming that he came to me because he was a guy that spoke highly of me and wanted me to make the team. And he said to me that because I'm dropping passes, I'm running the wrong routes, because in my head, I'm like, I'm not good enough to make this team because I'm seeing what they're doing. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And he told me to quit comparing myself to them. And what he said is ask yourself, how good do you want to be? And then he said, you got to go and look in the mirror and say, how good are you now? And every day just focus on being better at one thing. And that piece of advice switched my mindset from looking at everybody else and started focusing on me and just let the chips fall where they may. If I'm good enough to make it on this team, there's 31 other teams out there. And once I started focusing on me, things started getting better. I started focusing on, hey, I'm a receiver. So let me go through this practice, and I'm not going to drop any passes. I remember going through one practice saying that I'm not going to let Bill Romanowski throw me on the ground. Like, ragdolling me a lot. I mean, I'm a young tight end, never played I don't know how to block Bill Romanowski. So one practice, I was like, okay, my whole focus is not to let Bill Romanowski put me on the ground. So I started focusing on things like that every day for practice. And now it was me focusing on me instead of me looking at everybody else and thinking, man, I can't run like Shannon Sharp. I can't go like Dwayne Carswell. I can't do the things that they do.
But you can do the things that you can do.
Exactly.
That's such a huge life lesson. So many people these days are just looking around and comparing themselves to everybody else. And there's so many things that you can do.
Principle number 4.
Principle number 4 of your book. All right, we're going to get there. I'm excited about that.
Motivated.
There you go.
Be self-motivated. And people forget about the self part of motivation.
Yep.
Like I started being self-motivated because it was about me. Like, let me focus on me. I'm motivated to make me better.
Yep. And everything that you want is going to come along with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes on the backside. The tight end group you were talking about, was it hey Rook, or did they take you under their wing and really show you the way?
They absolutely took me under their wing. I remember bringing Shannon Sharp the wrong type of chicken. He's a health nut. Don't ever bring me any chicken anymore. But no, those guys, each and every one of them, from Shannon Sharp, and I was listening to an interview that Shannon Sharp did on this show called All the Smoke, and it solidified why he did it, why he was like he was to me, a young rookie. Because his rookie year, he played receiver, right? And he was struggling with the plays. And he said that they had called a play, and it was his time to go up. And he asked one of the receivers behind him, like, what do I supposed to do on this? And the receiver told him the wrong route on purpose.
Oh.
And he said in that interview that I listened to just like 3 weeks ago, He said, I made up in my mind at that point that I would never do anybody else like that. And when he became the person that he became and the player that he became, he was always trying to help.
Wow.
I was like, I get it now. That's why he was so good to me, because somebody was shitty to him and he didn't want to be that type of person to anybody else.
Yep.
So whatever I asked him, he was willing to share. I mean, anything and everything. And the same thing with Dwayne Carswell and Byron Chamberlain. All of those guys was just like, yeah, whatever you need. Like when the coach was cussing me out every day, they would come and pick me up and be like, it's all right, man.
Yeah, you'll get it.
Yeah.
So you were in Denver for 3 years, correct?
Yes.
At what point did, things start to click for you and getting into games and making plays? Who would have been Plummer that was your quarterback then?
No. So Brian Greasy. Actually,
oh, wow.
My first year, it was Bubby Brister before Brian Greasy took over the starting position in 1999.
Okay.
But it was really my second year. So, and this is why I judge other people off of this criteria, because it kind of happened this way for me. My first year, I didn't know anything. Shannon Sharp got hurt. They started playing me every now and again in 3 tight end packages, but I was playing primarily on special teams. My second year was the big growth spurt, right?
Okay.
Because now going into training camp, I knew more. I knew my surroundings. I knew where we were going to be at, so I could focus on playing football. And I just learned so much in that second year because I was more comfortable. It translated on the field with production also. I ended up catching 27 passes. Now I know how to block a guy. Now I know the routes. Now I'm not thinking about all of this stuff as much. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. So I made that jump from 1 catch to 27 catches, but more so mentally, I understood the game better. And then my second year, going to my third year, man, camp was a breeze. Not a breeze, but compared to the first 2 years, I got this now. I know where I'm at. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know how to study and go. I know how everything is going. So now I can even focus in more on just football. My third year, it all clicked in for me. That's when I became the player, and I still got better over the years. But that's how I caught 51 passes that year as a second tight end. And that year was a year that I felt like I became the player that I was going to be.
That's awesome.
And so I grade every other NFL player that comes into the NFL on that same scale. From year 1 to year 2, all right, how much better are they going to be? And from year 2 to year 3, you become the player that you're going to be. If, you didn't have injuries and that type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And are you talking about every position? That's how you grade players in the NFL?
As far as, man, we got to give this guy some more time or, development, this type of stuff. Yeah, there's always development as a professional athlete. But by year 3, you pretty much see the product that you're getting. You can refine it somewhat, but for the most part, that's the product that you're going to get.
Yeah. So what happened after year 3? I know you spent a year in Miami before you ended up in Chicago. What happened after year 3 with the Broncos?
Yeah, after year 3 with the Broncos, I broke my arm in training camp. They actually brought Shannon Sharp back. So when I broke my arm, I was going to miss the first 4 to 6 games of the year. They got Shannon Sharp. Dwayne Carswell is still there. They still had a couple other decent tight ends. They had drafted a young tight end. And so they let me go. And I ended up in Miami and played in 10 games in Miami. Didn't really do anything there, but played special teams. I mean, I balled out on special teams. I enjoyed my time in Miami just for that. I mean, since I couldn't get on the field on offense because Randy McMichael, a really good tight end, had kind of made his name there as a rookie.
Yep.
Jared Weaver, the second tight end. I came in late the first week of the season, so I was behind on the playbook. So I never got integrated. But special teams for me, that was like my saving grace. And actually, it's because of my special teams, the reason why I got the contract here in Chicago. They knew what I could do on offense, but they say I impressed them with what I did on special teams. and more so the mental focus that I had of, oh, you just went from 51 catches and 6 touchdowns, which was tied for the league in the NFL, was tied for the NFL league as far as tight ends, to not playing at all, but you went and gave it your all on special teams.
Yep.
Like for them, I guess it showed them the character of a football player, and that's why they extended me a 6-year deal when I got here to Miami.
To Chicago.
Yeah.
So what year are we in right now?
So now we're in year 2003 with Chicago.
Okay, got it. And how does, well, I'm not going to say Denver's all that warm, but how a Florida kid now moving to Chicago and playing games in November and December, that's got to be a little bit of a shock to you.
Well, you know what? There's a big time difference from to Chicago.
Yeah.
Well, we know there's a big time difference from Florida to Chicago. The thing in Denver in the wintertime, yeah, it snows and it gets cold, but it's not that bone chilling cold. You don't get the negative.
Yeah.
In that and the other. You may get down in the teens and some single digits sometimes, but when it snows, the next day it may be like sunny.
Yeah.
And that's the big time difference. It's just not a winter of gray skies and just cold and
Yep.
I like that in Denver. The winters are better in Denver.
Yeah, Denver's awesome. I've been there a couple times. It's you can go hiking one day and skiing the next.
Yeah. Me coming from Florida and playing in this weather up here, oh my God, this is a different beast.
So obviously I work in downtown Chicago. You obviously still live there. A lot of my viewers are from the Chicagoland area. I don't want to go through every year. Talk to me about your time in Chicago in general.
My time in Chicago has been great. Actually, my kids were born in Miami after that year, but the first 8 years of their life was spent here in Chicago. Chicago is Lakeland, Florida will always be home.
Sure.
Chicago is where I spend all of my time, so Chicago is home also. Chicago will continue to be home even when I do decide to move back to Florida. The people here has treated me well. The football time was great. 2005, 2006, that run that we went on, we went to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Some of the greatest people that I met in my life, greatest teammates, coaches. I really feel like I grew up here in Chicago as a man. I got here at the age of 25. I'm 43 now. I've been here for 18 years, and I really grew so much here in Chicago. A lot had to do with football, but a lot also had to do with off the field stuff. So, I wouldn't trade my time here in Chicago for nothing but better weather in the winter.
I think it shows a lot when you look at professional athletes in general, the ones that are on a team and they stop playing and then they stay there. You look at a guy like Pat McAfee with the Colts, just stayed in Indianapolis. Like, he loves it there. Like, it's a good sign when somebody does that.
Well, and you make so I would love to go back home to Central Florida. Matter of fact, I had a home in Central Florida. But the time that I spent here in Chicago, the name that I made for myself here in Chicago, let's just forget that it's Chicago and it's one of the greatest cities in the world.
Yep.
But all of my opportunity is here in Chicago that I created for myself.
Yep.
And there's not as much opportunity, to go back to Central Florida, Lakeland, Florida, Orlando, Tampa area. There's some opportunity, but I'll have people down there, they don't know me. I left home at the age of 18. My name was built to a bigger scale here in Chicago. So I want to use that social status and all of that equity that I built up here in Chicago, and create more opportunity for myself.
So the two other former NFL players that I've interviewed, I've both asked them the same question, and yours might be a little different because they were both offensive linemen. And so your answer may be a linebacker, but who was the one guy you're lining up for a play? You look across the line and there's this dude and you're like, oh man, it's this guy that you just don't want to take a hit from, don't want to get in a tussle with. Like, who's that one guy that always was like, man, I don't want to deal with him right now?
Nobody.
Come on.
So once that after that second year in the NFL, I couldn't tell you who it was my rookie year. I mean, it was everybody my rookie year.
Romanowski.
Yeah, exactly. But once I got to the point where I felt confident about myself, and this is out of no disrespect to any of the great players that I played against, but I started looking at them as kind of just gray faces. Because here's the thing. If you give that credit to that other person on the other side of the line, you're already losing mentally.
Yep.
So did I play against a bunch of guys that was great that I was going to have a tough time with? Yeah, I did. But my mindset was, that's defensive end number 33.
Yep.
And I have to block him. Because if I saw looking at, and one time this happened, Green, what's Green's last name? He played with the Rams. He also played defensive end with the Titans. He played.
Oh, yeah. Long hair.
He played with the Tampa Bay Bucks also.
Yep. Yeah, I can't remember his first name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so this dude's a monster, right? He's 300 pounds playing defensive end, and then when they go to nickel, they slide him down inside. So the one time when my coach made me take notice of, hey, look at what this guy is doing to everybody else. He was just running tight end over. And of course, I'm just watching film like I usually do. But my coach, he kept showing these and kept rewinding it and kept going back. And I looked back and I was like, what are you trying to say, coach? I was like, I'm just showing you what he's doing to tight ends. I was like, are you trying to say, do that to me? He's like, no, I'm just showing you what he's doing to tight ends. And I was like, well, damn it, he ain't gonna do it to me. And I know he was trying to get in my head.
Yeah,
he's not gonna do it to me. First play of the third quarter, we come out, and I forgot about it. I was having a good game against him. First play of the third quarter, we run a play backside, and he just comes and gives me a flipper, and I roll over. My feet are up in the air, like
oh jeez,
backwards somersault. And I just lay on the ground and I started laughing, like he just did it to me also.
Yeah.
But I could tell you who was the toughest guy for me to block. And I'm forgetting his name. He came out the same year that Reggie Bush came out. He was the #1 draft pick, defensive end. And he went to the Houston Texans. Man, what is his name? I'm forgetting his name. But anyway, he was like one of the strongest guys I ever had to block. And his arms were probably had to be at least 6 to 8 inches longer than mine.
Yeah.
If you remember those old cartoons and stuff and old shows where you got the one guy holding a little kid and the little kid. That's what I felt like blocking him, because anytime I was blocking him on the backside, he would just stick his arm out, hold me off, and I couldn't get to him. I couldn't get my hands on him. And then I couldn't cut him because he was too athletic. Mario Williams.
There you go.
I couldn't cut him because he was too athletic. This guy was impossible to block. So he was the toughest blocking assignment that I had, and he reminded me of Willie McGinnis, who was just as tough my second year. Man, both of those guys gave me fits.
Yep. So we've got, I think the other two were Richard Seymour and Aaron Donald. So, I like hearing about those tough players, because we've all kind of, I mean, I'm in the sales world, and we've all got those people that we know are really good, and you're competing against them. So, but I like the fact that you just put a number on them, and then they're just the guy that you have to block.
Right. So just like in your sales world, I mean, you know the guy or the guys or the girls that really kill it. But when you go into that sales meeting, you don't go in asking them, hey, so what did John come in here and sell you?
Right.
No, you go in and do your thing.
Yep. Absolutely. I appreciate that. So talk to me about life after the NFL. I mean, you're a pretty busy man. At what point were you talking about, writing a book and those types of things? Like, I know the transition from the NFL to life, almost said civilian life, like you're in the army or something, but
real life.
Real life. I've heard from various players and podcasts and just how difficult that is from going to this, rough and tumble game and physical thing to not having that in your life. What was that like for you?
The hardest thing was not having the structure. Every day I know what I got to do because it's set out for me. So now I have to do that myself now. I have to set that structure for myself. And I learned that over time. I was like, all right, well, this is how it was always done. Let me just start doing that for myself. But then trying to figure out what it is that I want to do. Some people, they leave out of the NFL and they know exactly what they want to do. That's not the majority. I'm in the majority of those people that, okay, I'm retired. Now what am I going to do? So I had to figure that part out. And because I had gotten scammed late in my career, I had started learning about financial advising and some things with stocks, this and that caught my attention. So I actually met a guy who owned a company, fell in love with him and the way that he does his business, and he showed me it's not necessarily about the numbers, it's about the people. Understanding the people, knowing the people, understanding what they're trying to get accomplished. The money, like you said, as a financial advisor, you don't mess with the money. All you do is allocate the money to different things and make sure that those things that you're allocating the money to are performing like they need to be performing. The people to where they're trying to go. And once he told me kind of that scenario, is like, that's what I want to do, because I want to, I've always been a people's person. And but you also got to know your stuff on the financial side.
Very cool. So you did that for the first several years after you retired. And kind of what else was going on? Were you doing speaking engagements? Talk to me a little bit about that.
I've been speaking since college, but
oh, really? Okay.
On a professional level, about 6 years now, and me pursuing it professionally, I just started doing that last year, where I say I'm going to build a platform so I can actually go out and do more speaking instead of having people finding me.
Yeah.
And I made it a professional endeavor for myself. And the only reason I say I was speaking professionally for 6 years, that's when I started getting paid large sums of money to go out and speak. That's when I actually paid a large sum of money to learn how to write my own speeches. Now that I'm getting paid for it and I'm paying for the expertise, I'm a professional now.
There you go.
But it wasn't until last October when I sat down, I was like, okay, I'm gonna write my second book. And I'm writing this second book because I'm launching my professional speaking platform that I want to go out and I want to make a difference to people in a few different areas of leadership, of sales, and professional and personal development.
Yeah, and I was getting ready to say, and obviously I don't want you to do a complete speech because we don't have the time and I can't pay you for it. But
Man, I thought
hey, I gotta go. What are some of the things that you talk about when you go? I mean, I would assume it's organizations. I mean, you're probably all over the board a little bit, but when you talk about sales and those types of things, what is the impetus of your speech?
So when it comes to leadership, sales, and professional development, I feel like there are certain principles that go into each of them. I think people look at sales the wrong way. Sales is more so of, instead of trying to push something down somebody's throat, it's a conversation to let that other person realize the value that your product can bring to them.
Yeah.
That's all sales is. You have to know your product, of course, but you also have to know people. You have to know how to talk to people. You have to know how to build a relationship. You also have to know what your brand is, not the company that you're not Massmutual or whoever, but you, Kevin. what's your brand? Like, who are you? And you have to be able to verbalize that in a way that people are going to like you, because unless you are the only person with that product, they can buy it from whoever.
Yeah.
And sometimes it really don't matter who they buy it from. I mean, the product that they buy, it matters who they buy it from.
Yep. Well, and not only that, not only do they have to like you, they have to remember you. I mean,
Yeah.
I work in an industry in Chicago where there's probably 25,000 other people walking the streets. Well, not right now, but walking the streets, typically doing what I do. And
Right.
so how do you get to a point where people are remembering that you were there? And so when they do need your product, they're like, oh yeah, I need to call so-and-so because I remember them and I like them.
So if I say Nike, what's their tagline?
Just do it.
How did you remember that?
Because we're the same age, and that's huge.
Because it's been branded so much.
Yep.
You just know it.
Yep.
I always tell people, like, for me, I brand myself a lot of different ways. One of the ways that I brand myself is my 5 F's: faith, family, fitness, finances, and fun. If we're gonna have a conversation, I have to go into this sales meeting, and I have to find a way to be remembered.
Yep.
I have to say, what is it about Desmond Clark that I know, like, and trust? And so beyond just the product, when we having those conversations about, well, who are you and who am I? And not necessarily selling pain points, because, oh, do I want to go out and find somebody in pain all the time and make them pain? No, I want to do it this way so I can go out to everybody, not just people who are in pain.
Yep.
Okay, this is my product. This is who I am. This is why you will want to buy from me as opposed to somebody else. Well, we want to buy from Nike because we know Nike just do it.
Yeah.
And we want to go to Neiman Marcus and some of these other stores that we buy from because we like the brand that they have.
Yep.
And we know what we're going to get from them. They've told that story so much to you that, hey, it's not necessarily I want those shoes, but I want those shoes if they got them at Neiman Marcus or wherever
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. So I want you to have a chance to talk about the book. Can you give me, I know it came out in April, title, this is your chance to pitch that.
All right, pitch it then.
All right.
No, that wasn't set up on purpose back there.
Uh-huh.
But this is my new book, Principles of Winning, came out April 20th. You can get it on Amazon. But this book really speaks to what I was talking about at the beginning. My goal for writing this book was to share the experiences. I mean, the great experiences that I had to I lived some of the lowest of low experiences with growing up, dad, but also the highs of high. And I had so many great leaders over the course of my years of being on this earth. I feel like those experiences were given to me for a reason. And I'm giving those experiences away and the principles that I learned from them because I know that these principles and all of these things that I experienced over life can help other people get to the next level of success for themselves. Or, like I always say, help them continue to walk into the vision that they have for themselves, their families, and their loved ones. And I believe my book is not the end all be all. No book is that. But I believe reading it, you can take stuff from it that will help you get to where you're trying to go.
Awesome. I love it. Well, I'm looking forward to reading it. What's next for you? Like what's coming down the path for you?
So I read you off my goals. I also want to the insurance people. So I'm really focused on that. I have big audacious goals with that. Also, I'm still a financial advisor. So still do that. And then really the other thing that's coming down the pipeline is just seeing me all over the place speaking and growing the Des Clark Speaks and continuing to give as much as I can on social media outlets and just trying to be of value to as most people as I can. That's what it's all about. And
I know you've got 2 kids?
No, I have 3 kids.
Okay, got it. And how old are they?
I have 17-year-old twin girls and an 8-year-old son.
Oh, so you've got college coming up then.
Got college coming up. Yeah, they're juniors now, so we got one more year to brace.
All right.
But and it's double.
Yes, yeah, that's I'm only dealing with that. I have one in college and one going next year, and I can't imagine having to do that 2 times. Do you think they will go to the same place?
No.
No? All right.
They're totally different kids. I mean, they may, but I wouldn't expect them to.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I appreciate you being here. I will definitely share the book and make sure people know where to get it. I'll put it in the comments so people know where to get that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you. I have no doubt that I'm probably going to be somewhere that you're speaking, if not be asking you to do that for people that I know.
I appreciate it, Kevin. Yes, sir.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
All right, you have a good one.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Awesome. So big takeaway for me, and I've heard this before, I think from another Lunch and Learn Live that we did, is just stop comparing yourself to other people. And that could be in any organization, any role, any job. So many people are looking to see what somebody else has or what somebody else can do. And it's only going to hold you back, because each of us has our own individual types of strengths and weaknesses, and that's going to be different from somebody else. So find out what you're really good at and definitely lean into that. So I love that, and kind of putting a number on those people and not necessarily looking at them and feeling like they're better than you, because you have all of your own skills that you're going to be able to take and be successful with. So that was my big takeaway. Huge announcement. You're only going to hear it right now. The next Lunch and Learn Live that I at least have scheduled is June 19th at 11:30. I will be talking to the chairman of JetBlue Airlines, Joel Peterson. That has not been announced until right now, and I will not be announcing it for probably a week or two. But if you're watching this, you do know that I'll be talking to Joel Peterson, chairman of JetBlue Airlines, on June 19th. And that will be coming out soon. So thanks for being here today. Really appreciated the viewers, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks a lot.